Hello, and welcome to another Cuz Bad Guys Tactical Breakdown. In this, we're going to go over Eobard Thawne, otherwise known as Professor Zoom. I believe this model done by Night Models is the version of Professor Zoom from the New 52 comics. I love the pose, super leaning forward, got the evil smile on his face. Totally awesome for a totally awesome bad guy. So let's get into his character card. So we've got Eobard Thawne, Professor Zoom. He is a free agent who hates Batman, Law Forces, Green Arrow, Joker, and League of Shadows. So obviously he's a bad guy, so you can't take him with any of the good guy forces. Then he has a problem with the Joker because the Joker is the crazy clown prince of crime of Gotham. Nobody really wants to work with him. And then the League of Shadows, and Professor Zoom actually had a falling out with Ra's al Ghul in a previous storyline, so it makes sense that they just don't like each other. They have a hard time working with each other. So he has no weapons to speak of other than the Speed Force, so whenever he fights somebody in close combat, he is going to be doing just the regular stun. But this guy isn't a bruiser, just like the Flash. You don't want to get him stuck up in some combats. He can do some damage, and we'll go over that, but just the regular stun for punching people. So let's go over his stats. He is Willpower 8, so he is not going to be wanting for counters. He has counters for days, essentially. He's going to be able to run around, defend himself, do all the special stuff he needs to do. Strength 4+. 4+ is really good on him. With the Speed Force, he can bonus his strength, so he can go to Strength 3+ if you need to put out some damage. But other than that, Strength 4 is just fine on him. Then let's go to Movement 5, Attack 4, Defense 5, and Endurance 8. So Movement 5, this guy's a speedster. He's got to be Movement 5. Super duper fast. It's going to play into his personal traits. Let's go to Attack 4. Attack 4 is actually really good for him because you get to put those 4 counters on there, and with the Speed Force you can double up your attack counter, so he can actually have 8 attacks going out on people. Sure, he'd just be Strength 4+, but that's a ton of punches to be putting out on somebody if you want to knock somebody out. Defense 5. Defense 5 is really good, so people are only going to be hitting you on 5s and 6s. They're only going to be hitting you if you get shot at on 5s and 6s. Really, really good. The Defense 5 is high end. And then Endurance 8. Endurance 8, this guy is a tank. He can suck up a ton of damage, and then with the Speed Force, he can heal himself. So it's very rare to see this guy knocked out, let alone casualtied. Almost never happens. But you don't want to overextend yourself or put him in sticky situations that you don't want him in, because nobody in this game is invulnerable. So let's go ahead and go on to his personal traits. So his first personal trait is going to be Dodge. So Dodge plays into his Movement 5. So Dodge lets you dodge ranged attacks, and for every movement counter you have, you can dodge a bullet or a batarang or whatever it is, rolling anything less than a 5 on a dice. So as long as you don't roll that 6, you are going to dodge whatever they shoot at you. His next personal trait is Fast. So when he runs around on the board and spends those extra movement counters to be able to move, you can reroll any or all of the dice. So say you roll 3 dice and you roll a 1, a 5, and a 6, you can reroll that 1. So the Negative Speed Force. Negative Speed Force is normally the Speed Force pool is going to be 10 tokens. Negative Speed Force means that he gets to he like shuts down the Speed Force a little bit just by being around, and that turns into 8 tokens. So that means the Speed Force is even more of a finite resource for speedsters to be able to use. So he messes that up for other speedsters like the Flash and Kid Flash. He's really good with that. There is a negative side to the Negative Speed Force. So say you don't raise the plan and you're facing off against the Flash, there's only 8 counters in the Speed Force, and the Flash is power level 6. So he'd be able to pull 6 of those counters out, so that means Professor Zoom only gets 2. So that can be pretty bad. There's like a double-edged sword there, right? With the negative Speed Force. So as long as you get the initiative, you can be really powerful with it, and you can shut down the Flash, but the same is on the other side. So if you don't get the initiative, you're on the back end. So it's kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing. So his next personal trait is going to be scientific. So just like the Flash, he is also a scientist. He's all about learning about the Speed Force and all that stuff. So super fluffy, totally makes sense. And it means that his special can actually hold 4 counters in it instead of just 3. And he's also worth 1 extra point if he is casualtied at the end of the game. So let's go on to Strategist. So Strategist is he gets to give you 1 extra strategy point at the beginning of the game. So when you're doing your strategies, everybody normally gets 3 strategy points, right? So this guy gives you that extra strategy point. There is actually a way to use his negative effects, and I'll go over them later on after we go over his reputation cost. And Strategist really plays into that and plays a critical role in it. So let's go ahead and go over his Speedster trait. So Speedster 5. Speedster 5 means that with the negative Speed Force, there's only 8 tokens in the pool, right? So Speedster 5 means he can take up to 5 of those 8 tokens out of the Speed Force, and you're only leaving 3 for other people as long as you get the initiative. So this means that he can't do the really high-end Speedster abilities, and he can only do 1 because he's not a Speed Force master. So he's not as good as the Flash with using Speed Force, but he's still up there. He's still really, really fast. Still really good at capturing objectives and stuff. Can still put out damage, like by doubling his attacks, by getting a bonus to his strength. And then now let's go over his unique Speed Force power. So his unique Speed Force power is Phase Strike. This model gains crit triple blood until the end of the round, and it costs 3 points. Initially, when I saw this guy and saw this ability, I thought that it was kind of crap because crit triple blood sounds really good, but you've got to roll that 6 on the collateral die. But now with the Flash and Green Arrow expansion that came out, a crew that he can be taken for that you can really capitalize on this is Black Mask. So the Black Mask, he has an equipment that can be taken for his crew that is called Bounty Hunter Contract. This costs 2 reputation and $200. It can only be purchased by free agents. The character gains the Brutal rule and can be affected by the No Mercy rule. So that means getting Brutal on Professor Zoom, you get to re-roll your collateral die. So that means you essentially double up your chances of getting that triple blood. So it makes him much more worth it, but you've got to take him in a Black Mask crew to be able to want to use Phase Strike. And let's go over his reputation cost. So his reputation cost is 117 points. So 117 points for a Speedster is pretty good because the Flash is 125, and this guy just affects the Speed Force differently with his negative Speed Force, and then getting the Strategist. It's actually, I found some combos, along with the Black Mask, getting that Brutal on him. There's some combos that you can do with taking this guy that make him really worth it. Because with Speedsters, especially this Speedster, you want to be getting the initiative, and you actually use his strategy points to get the extra counter to be able to get more chances to go first. The other thing that you do is you take masterminds with him. So you take the Riddler, guys like that have mastermind. Or you can take, I've taken him in a Wonderland Gang crew. You just make sure to pair him up with masterminds so you get those extra tokens to be able to get the chance to go first. And then you also use the strategy points to put another token in there. So you capitalize on his negative speed force and you kind of throttle down on other speedsters. So 117 reputation, pretty well worth it. He's also zero cash because he has no gun, no ranged attack. This makes him really well worth it to take him in Bane crews, to take him in those heavy shooter lists that you want to be spending money on those assault rifles, on handguns. He's really well worth it, and he is a great objective grabber. You've got to keep it in mind that that is what he does. His weakness is that he cannot last in prolonged combats. You use the speed force, you get him out of there, and you go after your objectives. This is the paint job that I had done for my Zoom. One of my buddies, he painted this for me. I really like the way he came out. I have a really hard time painting yellow, and this guy, I know he rocks at it. The way he painted him is in the classic Zoom colors with the red and black symbol, all the black lightning bolts on him. His face turned out amazing. Let's see if I can zoom in on it. Oh yeah, that looks so great. I really like the way this guy came out. I just painted the base. All right, and that is it for Professor Zoom. And remember, 'cause bad guys.